You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to my favourite shows that I do on this Achtung Millwall work of art that I produce. The Listed Lions. Joining me today is a volunteer. He emailed me wanting to come on the show. It is great to have you on the show, Charlie Kelly, a willing victim. How are you, mate?
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, we were just saying off air, listeners, about some of the best and some of the worst Listed Lion interviews we've done. I always my personal bar, Charlie, is we get past 2 minutes. That's been the low point of my Listed Lion career. So 2 minutes is your target to beat. We should do it by talking about that wonderful result on Boxing Day at Watford. I was thinking about this because a few people have made the same point. I'm trying to think back to as good a performance away from home by Millside. I mean, I'm going back to the Nottingham Forest game, I suppose, in March 2020, just prior to COVID. Other than that, it's hard to think of many that were better in terms of all-round performance. And it's really set us fair in the table now. I mean, hope is always your enemy at the den, mate, isn't it? But that was a cracking show on Boxing Day.
No, yeah, definitely. Probably the best away performance post-COVID, I'd have to say. I have to agree with the Nottingham Forest game. I was at that game, the Forest game, and yeah. I just think we just battered them yesterday. They couldn't
controlled it.
Yeah. They couldn't handle our press, our possession. I thought we kept the ball really well, which I was very surprised with yesterday, because this season I think our ball retention has not been the best this season. I thought when we had the ball, we kept it well.
Yeah,
I thought agree. Billy and Saville done really well in the midfield yesterday, and I couldn't name you one bad player.
No, I agree. I mean, Billy, I will come back to in a moment. I was just looking at the News Online, London News Online, stories of the day. They've got the various articles on there, and they mentioned Billy was praising Vogelsammer and the star of the show is Ian Fleming, obviously. I mean, I like Andreas Vogelsammer. I've liked him ever since he's come into the side, and it was just great to see him open his account on Boxing Day. Nicely taken goal. He's been really unlucky since he's come into the side, and it's just great to see a bit of luck fall his way, wasn't it? Nice finish.
He's had a few chances, hasn't he, down the den, and just hasn't connected, or keeper's made a great save. But he definitely deserved that yesterday.
I don't think he's a natural winger. I mean, we're playing him kind of on the right side of the forward three, aren't we? But I think he was a striker, proper full-on centre forward out there, you know.
Yeah, he was brought into play in that free up front system Rowett wanted to use, but I think he's doing a job for us at the moment on the wing. But it'd be nice to see him up front in his natural position. I don't think he's played there this season, from memory serves me correctly.
I tell you what strikes me as well. I mean, he hasn't got the repertoire of conventional winger skills. I mean, you compare him, say, with Tyler Bury, who goes past men and did go past men at Watford with ease, like a knife through butter. I think Vogelsammer is, despite his kind of heavyweight appearance, he's a great cross of the ball. He whips balls in with some accuracy, and I think that's what we've missed for a long while, that ability to get a decent cross into the danger area. And obviously he scored the goal, which is...
Problem is, he should be the one on the other end.
Well, that's true. But I mean, just going back to the performance, I make you right, because, I don't like criticising Murray Wallace, but he's not been on form for some games. But he, again, like so many others, it's like suddenly the clockwork machinery clicked and it started to work, and that was a performance and a half. Our enemy at the den, Charlie, is hope, because now we've got a weight of expectation against Bristol City and Rotherham, haven't we? Because we've got to do it again, and consistency has been the problem, but that's what's going to carry us forwards here. So we've got to put away sides like Bristol, like Rotherham. We've got 2 games in swift succession, Thursday night, I think Sunday. And that's what we've got to do. Because we've promised a lot on occasions this season, haven't we, mate? And we've got to deliver now.
Yeah.
Big half of the season to go.
I have to think, when we beat Preston 4-2, and I'm thinking, okay, we can go on a run here. And the game we come back against Sunderland, you lose 3-0. So it's
Yeah,
very Jekyll and Hyde, our team at the moment. And these are the games, Bristol and Rotherham, that we would normally struggle in as well after a good away performance at home.
absolutely.
So
I mean,
hopefully we can.
I'd also point listeners in the direction of the Preston win. We were all raving about winning 4-2 at Preston, but there's a niggling sense that we did give up a 2-goal lead there, and we started to look a bit flaky at points. We made the comeback, and that's to be acknowledged. But with what was really striking, I mean, you could say that Watford were poor, but that's an expensively assembled side there, Charlie, and we made them look like Isthmian League side. In terms of their fight
Yeah.
and spirit, they weren't there. So we need more of that going forward. Consistency is going to be the key to the season. Also, I presume that we'll make some moves in the transfer market, in the loan market, possibly during January. Where would you strengthen if you had not an unlimited budget? We don't have that down the den, do we? But if you had a Millwall budget, where would you be looking to strengthen the side?
I think we're definitely crying out for a winger who can, who's like a Tyler Bury, can take a
Mm.
man on, but just has that final product consistently. I think if we had I hate to say it, but a Jed Wallace type player in this
Who?
team, I couldn't name you a weakness. It's just that right as good as Vogel's doing at the moment, he's not a natural winger. If we
No,
had
he's
someone
not.
on that right side who could just put balls in, because Tom Bradshaw and Tian Fleming will just attack them all day long. And I just think a winger, if we get a pacey, good crosser of ball, I don't think we're too far off achieving our
No,
goals
I
this season,
agree.
to be honest.
I agree. I mean, the industry and the work rate of Tom Bradshaw up front is something to behold. I mean, you could go through the whole side on Boxing Day, but I think because he had a hat trick, but his finishing has always been so. But he
That's not,
makes up for that, more than makes up for it with his work rate. I mean,
yeah.
start to finish. I mean, I don't know where he gets his energy from. He must be immensely fit as a professional athlete to do that for 90 minutes. But I make
All
you
on his own
right.
up
It's
front as well.
on his own. But I make you right because I think Tyler needs a little bit of competition. I think maybe even Vogie needs a bit of competition just to keep standards high. It's going to be an interesting month, January. Starting, don't quite start with Bristol. That's just at the end of this year, but it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. Are you hopeful for the
Mm.
season? I know that no Millwall fans should ever get too hopeful, but I think we've got a big opportunity on our hands, Charlie.
It is the hope that kills you. I think we've done it in reverse this season. We normally start slow.
Yeah,
After Christmas, we pick up and we have this run to try and get into the playoffs. But I mean, we're going into the new year and we're in it at the moment. I think looking yesterday.
yeah,
So hopefully, this will be our season that we actually finally get into the top six places. I think if we just had, if Rout had signed for this formation in the summer, we would be comfortably in the playoffs, in my opinion. But it's going to be a tight one because it's so tightly. I think I looked yesterday. There's 5 points between us and 17th or something like
yeah.
that.
I was just looking at the league table. We're on 35 in sixth spot, obviously, as we speak. And then you can go down to Swansea in 16th position on 32, just 3 points behind us.
Yeah,
It's such a strange division, very, very tight. So, I mean, you can't take it for granted. We've got to be consistent. Well, we've got to start finding consistency. Yeah, I think a major opportunity on our hands. I was just looking at another table. We're just going back the comparison with last season. I mean, we were 13th. This is from Chris Chaps, that Millwall podcast. Chris Chaps, 13th position at the same stage last season. This season we are sixth. So last year we had don't say how many points on this screenshot I got here. So anyway, we're markedly better. And
mm,
we're starting to feel markedly an improved side, despite the loss of Jed Wallace, which I think is quite interesting because we did rather depend on Jed, didn't we?
we definitely
Traditionally,
did.
whereas it doesn't quite feel as much that we're so. I mean, maybe Zian is the is the new sole, sole reliance that we're on now. But yeah, let's do our listed line. Charlie's has contacted me. Want to be a listed line? It's always great to have new voices online. Thank you for coming on, Charlie. We know your name, so I'm going to have to change these questions, listeners. First one is your name, but I know it already. What was your first Millwall game, Charlie? What do you remember of your first ever trip to the Den, to the Halcyon ground? I
Well,
presume it'd be the new Den,
quite a
would it?
big game to be fair. My first Millwall game was the FA Cup final in
Was it?
2004.
Wow. That's not a bad
My
opening. I
first ever
can't must
game,
say.
yeah.
Wow.
No, so growing up, my everyone in my family supports different teams. So my dad's a Palace fan, fortunately. My mum's an
How did that
Arsenal
work out?
fan. My uncle is a Spurs fan.
Right.
Well, apparently there's a picture of me as a 1-year-old in a Palace kit somewhere, so I need to find that and burn it straight away.
There's a
But
there's a movie in that family Christmas dinner. There's a movie in that, or an episode or something. Yeah.
definitely. My uncle, who's a Millwall fan, really got to me first. I'll be
Right.
honest. So I remember it, to be honest. The FA Cup final day, we left at 7 in the morning. I
Yeah.
think drove all the way down to Cardiff
Yeah.
because as a kid I'm thinking, oh, we're going to Wembley, but obviously that was the year that it was
It was shut.
changed to the Millennium, I think, for a period of time.
Yeah.
So I was like, why are we leaving at 7 to go to Wembley, Uncle? And he was like, we're going to Cardiff. I was like, oh God.
How old were you? How old were you when at that point, Charlie?
I would have been 9 years old
9. Okay, that's not a bad start.
on that day, yeah. So I
The
mean,
idea that Mill would ever get to a cup
no,
final was so
I mean,
remote for me when I started going. As to I can't tell you how far out of your radar it was.
But yeah, no, I remember the game. Do you know, I remember the game very well. I know we lost 3-0, but the biggest thing around me was Danny Dicchio being
Yeah,
injured, and if he was playing, we would have had more of a chance. And everyone was just down there just for the day, really. My
yeah.
uncle tells me that everyone's cup final, they say, is the semi-final up in Manchester. I think it was Sunderland, if memory serves
Sunderland
me
at Old
correctly.
Trafford. Yeah, we were carrying injuries. DKO. Muscat was out as well. He'd injured himself in the semi-final.
Yeah,
So yeah, it is a shame. I think the plan, Dennis Wise's plan, was to keep it tight and get through to half time. And it nearly worked in a sense because I remember
it did. Yeah,
I remember saying to my ex partner's son who I took there, I said, I'll tell you what, James, if we can get through to half time here, we got half a chance in the second half. And then I think Ronaldo scored as I said that. So that was that really. Once we went behind, we were never going to come back, were we?
No, I don't really remember us having a attack of note, to be honest, from that game. But I just remember walking out and it was just a sea of blue,
Yeah.
and I was hooked. And I was like, yeah, this is the club I want to support.
From that moment onwards, you were sold on it, mate. What about your first trip to the
And
new
it was a
Den?
downhill struggle from there. But
It's really, it would have been. Yeah, you came in just at the. I suppose you had the European thing, didn't you? In 2005, but it was a bit downhill after that for a few years. When was your first trip to the Den? Do you
mm,
remember that? The first game at the Den.
I do. It was a Crystal Palace game in
Mm,
2005, I believe.
wow. Yeah.
And the funny story of that is that my dad took me to that game, and we sat in the home end. And I think I'm trying to remember today. I couldn't find it online, but I think Palace scored, and my
Right.
dad's gone to celebrate, and I can't remember what block we're in, but I just remember as a young kid playing, "Please don't celebrate, please don't celebrate." And I don't think he did it, thankfully. And I think we drew the game 1-1 in the end. But that was my first game down the den. It was a night game under the lights, and I didn't go for a few years after that, to be
Yeah.
honest, just with school and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then from then, I think my first proper season was our promotion season up in 2009, 2010,
Well, that's not a bad
that I
one.
would go
Yeah.
down more
As
regularly.
a proper one. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's difficult as a kid. Obviously, you don't control your life as a kid. You have no money, so you can't go to football. So the modern game is very different to when I started going back in Charles Dickens's time. In my case, nowadays kids have to go with parents. They wouldn't let you in. They would let us in back in those days, but it's a bit different,
No,
really. But that's not a bad season, 2009-10. You've got two good fixtures there, Crystal Palace and a cup final, mate. That's a pretty good start to your Millwall career, I've got to say. Um,
that's good.
I'm just looking at my questions, listeners. I normally include, did you go to Coldblow Lane? No, you didn't go to Coldblow Lane because you're not old enough.
No, I was born after that was.
Yeah, that eliminates my third question of my list. This is why I've got to change my questions, listeners. I always ask, do you like the new den? I mean, it's a bit of an obvious question as fans. I really do like our ground, and I've been to quite a few. I've been to the old den, been to a few away games, but it's interesting to get a younger person's view on it because I think our ground, the atmosphere that we get there is immense, and we take it so much for granted. You know, listening to that Boxing Day fixture, I watched it on stream. But you know, apart from our fans, it would have been a library there. And this is. I was watching another one last night. Who was it? It was Bolton Wanderers were at home. I just happened to put it on, but it had that kind of in a leisure centre when you go in, you got like a big echoey kind of space, and you can hear individual shouts. You had that kind of feeling there, and we take our atmosphere and our what we call a quiet match is really quite an atmosphere compared with many other clubs. I mean, I just wonder what your take on it was. I mean, do you like the new den? Is the question. I mean, I do. Do you?
I mean, obviously, it's our home ground, and it is my favourite ground. Just plain, it's just unique. The sound you get there, the atmosphere you get there. I've been to a few grounds myself, and you just don't get it anywhere else with us. I mean, 10,000 of us could sound like, I don't know, 30,000 in another stadium. It's not
I
how
agree.
much you have; it's the vocalness of the fans that go to the games. And I mean, if this is the problem with some managers we've had, they've not brought us into play, the fans sometimes, and
Yeah,
when the den
Rowett.
is
Yeah,
flat as well,
yeah.
I think it can be a hindrance to our players as well. So I honestly think we bring the players into play with our atmosphere, and I love it. I love our ground. I can't think of a better ground to go to be honest.
I mean, there's been this thing, and certain players. I suppose I'm thinking of Lewis Grabban. I don't know why he leaps into my mind, but there've been others too over time. I think you either sink or swim at the Den, Charlie, and the atmosphere. It's a strange thing. I think there's a point to be had that it's a great boost for some players. Others find it a burden, don't they? And they almost freeze because with the support comes a pretty relentless honesty as to your performance. If you're not playing well, the Millwall crowd will tell you, won't they? You know, you'll be put
Yeah,
straight quite fast if your attitude's not right.
no, I definitely agree. I've seen loads of players come to the den thinking they're the big bollocks, and
Yeah,
unfortunately they crumble. Lewis Grabban is one of them, but then again, some players they relish it. They play better for an away team with our atmosphere.
some
So
rise to it. Yeah, some rise to
yeah,
it. I mean, a
but
player that just talking about Crystal Palace at the start of our conversation. I do remember. I don't think it was the game that you mentioned. It would have been another one. Crystal Palace. I think Clinton Morrison was playing for them, and he totally went to pieces because obviously the barracking and the kind of the abuse and so on was relentless because he was their main threat, which is always there's a backhanded compliment to it, isn't there? That you don't do it to a player that doesn't matter, do you?
yeah,
And he just lost the plot, you know. I mean, a bit like the boy at Vicarage Road who was also lost his discipline. It's interesting as to who does lose it and who doesn't. So it's often players you think will love it, don't, and those that don't, you think won't do. It's
yeah. Well, I think we've
go
had
around.
two examples this season with players coming back. You got Marlon Romeo, who absolutely crumbled with the
Yeah,
atmosphere,
yeah,
and to a certain point, I think when Jed Wallace come back, he relished it until he done what he done.
yeah. No, I agree. Lost the plot completely. I mean, he was. It was a strange one with Jed because he was a hero at the Den, and then decided he would leave chasing after more money. He went to West Brom, and then one or two. I think he mishandled the intro to it, and he mishandled the day itself. But I think also to be on the receiving end of it. I mean, I wouldn't fancy it, would you? Going into
No,
work, if you got
definitely not.
10,000 Millwall fans pointing out your every
Absolutely
error
not.
and every misdemeanor, Um, but yeah, it's interesting. And I would have thought he could have handled it because he would have known at least what to expect. But there we are.
Achtung, Millwall.
Let's move along through our list here. Your favourite all-time player? So we're dating from 2004 onwards here, Charlie. Who did you pick out as your personal favourite ever Millwall player?
So this was a bit of a struggle for me because there are a few. I mean,
Mm,
I got an honourable mention for Steve Morrison, just
yeah.
because I remember when he first come to us in that first half of the season. I don't think he scored many goals for us,
No, he had
and
a
I'm
hard
thinking, who
time.
have we got here from non-league? And then after that, he just kicked on for 18 months, and he was probably our best player. And
Yeah.
when he came back on loan one season, I can't remember which, under Lomas, and I
He had
thought,
a
oh, here
few
we go,
spells, didn't he?
got a goal
Yeah.
scorer back, and
Yeah.
I think that's three overall. And then when we signed him when we were back in League One, I was like, this is a statement of intent here because by all accounts he wasn't a League One player, Steve Morrison. He was a Championship player.
Yeah.
But my favourite player of all time was Sean Williams.
Sean Williams. Wow. Okay. That's an
Yeah,
unusual
do
choice.
you know
I
what?
like
Because
it.
I didn't what I know I I get slated for it a lot when I say it, but I think when he joined us,
The wand.
when he joined us, I think he was under Holloway, and Holloway was playing him left back and centre back and everything. And then I think when we got relegated, I think he was a mainstay in our team, and he made us better when he played. And I just loved the way he played. He was so calm on the ball,
Yeah.
great set pieces, energy, loved the club. And when he left, I was really gutted when he left. But it is a weird one. I didn't see Tim Cahill enough, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and I didn't see Neil Harris enough, to be honest. I saw the tail end of his career. But yeah, for me, Sean Williams.
That's a great choice. I like that. I like unusual choices. I mean, I think the thing with Sean Williams, I think that he actually follows me. There's always a bit of a buzz when someone in your own world who's famous follows you on Twitter. It's a strange
Oh
thrill that
yeah,
you get. But yeah, and I think his love for the club is evident. You know, I think that's a big hook, Charlie, isn't it? When someone clearly thinks the world of the club, and you know, I think in Sean's case, he still does. Although I think he's playing for Gillingham at the moment, which is it's got to be a tough
yeah,
gig down there, isn't it? You know,
not doing
um,
too well.
no, they're not. That's under Neil Harris. That's a different story, of course. But it's a good choice. I like Sean
Mm.
Williams, favourite all time. But for every favourite, Charlie, there must be the other side of the coin. For
Yeah,
every steak, it has to have its kidney. Who is the worst Millwall player you've seen in your, what's that, about just short of 20 years, isn't it? So you got
yeah.
you haven't got the full array there, but you got a good few. We've had a few duds in that time. So who would you pick out as your worst? If that's not too
For
unfair a
every good
question.
signing we have a terrible signing, don't we? Um, I mean, I wouldn't say worst, but disappointed was Conor Mahoney.
Yes.
When he first joined, I was like, yes, this is the player we needed who can cross a ball, take a man on. I remember his first game against Preston. I think he set Jed up for a goal, and I'm thinking, that's it.
I thought
We've done it now.
we'd
Perfect.
signed an artist, a Picasso, to send him
And I
out
used
there.
to
You know.
always big him up and like to my friends, oh, he's amazing, he's going to do well, and he'd come in and he'd score a goal against Luton, and you wouldn't see him again. So I think not worst, but my disappointing player was him. But my worst player of all time, I can't think of anyone else than Justin Hoylett. Yeah, I looked it up
I
today. He
hadn't
was at
thought of
our
that
club
name. That's a name I hadn't thought of
for
in a
eight.
while. They brought him out of the
No,
depths of my
he was at our
memory
club for
bank.
18 months. Could not believe it when I saw that. And he was just rubbish. It was during that period where I think Jacket was signing players, or someone was signing players to get rid of Alan Dunn, and Alan Dunn would always come back and show them why he's better than them. I think there was like a year period where all these right backs would come in and they just weren't good. And he just sticks out in my mind because I used to sit on the halfway line in the Dockers lower, so you'd be right
Yeah.
eye line with him, and he was just rubbish. Couldn't pass the ball, couldn't cross a ball, couldn't run.
There's been so many though, Charlie. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know who I was expecting, but I always have the vision of Danny and Gesson in my mind when I do ask that question. There's another one, it's like a
Oh, I
wage
forgot
thief,
about
you know.
him.
And there's been so many, you know, and There we are. I think it's always an individual, and there is a panoply of players you can pick out. I don't know why I think we get managers that go into desperation zones, and Jacket did, and Holloway spent his whole management year in the desperation zone, signing anyone. I sometimes wonder if you're walking past, getting off the bus at Ilderton Road, that you could get a contract. Just walk in, you'll have a go. That's a good choice. I like that. Your most memorable match, which would you pick out in your? It's about 17 years of fan, isn't it? Roughly 18 years, perhaps. Your most memorable match.
I've got two.
Okay.
Like, I couldn't separate these two. So my first one is the Forest away 3-0 win with the Matt Smith hat-trick.
Great performance.
Just plainly because after that game, I thought we're going up. There was no stopping us. It was the feeling that we had after that game, leaving that ground. And
it took a pandemic.
They weren't too bad, the Forest team. It did, conveniently.
It took a pandemic and draconian law from the government to stop us. Oh dear!
I just remember that. I remember when Jason Malumbi thought he scored and he done that silly dance in the corner, and then you see it back on. I think there's a screen there. You see it back on the screen. You're like, this is amazing, because we never win 3-0 away or rout teams like that. So, but the one that pips it is the Leeds away game when we first came back up in 2018. 4-3? I think it was.
The 4-3 win up there?
Yeah, 4-3.
Yeah.
I went through the whole range of emotions that day. I think we were 2-0 up, then went 3-2 down, and I told my mate Fred, I'm never going to the away game again. I'm done. I don't think I won an away game, but at that point, I was like, I'm done. I'm not going. Let's get out of here. And I think, of all people, Tom Elliott chests the ball and volleys it in.
Yes.
I'm thinking, oh my God.
And he took it really nicely. He took it really well. Yeah.
He did. I remember I was right in front of it, and he chested it and just volleyed it in. And I'm like, oh my God, where's that come from? And then Jeb Wallace goes and scores, and you're just pandemonium. I think we were stuck in that ground for a good half hour after that game.
That's right.
It was just I think that, and also that was the first. That was my first Leeds away game, because that was the first year they got rid of the stupid voucher thing that they were doing.
Previously, you had to check in at a kind of high security service station on the M1 to get a voucher to get your ticket. Only at Millwall did you get this. That was a great. That's actually I was up there for that game, and I've met up with Harry up there actually, and because you go into these games not really expecting a classic like that, but it's one of my favourite episodes of doing Achtung Millwall actually, because the kind of crazed end scenes, like you say, that equaliser by Tom Elliott, the most unlikely of figures to play a part in one of your favourite ever games, which is one of mine, is certainly in the category of it. And then obviously the hero stroke villain now, Jed Wallace, to complete the win. Wonderful day. I think the Forest game was. That's probably. I mean, we were just talking off air, weren't we, about great performances, obviously including the Watford game, but that would have to be another one because it was such a complete performance. Also, the Forest game marked the kind of high point of Matt Smith and marked the high point of Jason Malumbi as well, because neither. Matt Smith was always a threat. Maybe he had a last-minute winner against Charlton, I seem to remember, but it was just like it was like a high watermark for that particular team. And then Gary Rowett at that point, and then of course in came the pandemic, and that's the end of that little run, wasn't it?
Indeed.
There we are. This is I keep offering to change these questions, listeners, and you're going to get bored of me saying this, but I might change this one. But anyway, we're going to go your favourite Millwall moment. Whether that's the same as the two games you've just mentioned or not, Charlie, I don't know. But do you have a separate Millwall moment that you would pick out from your career?
So it's actually a different one.
Okay.
So it was Robertson's winner against Swindon at Wembley in 2010.
Okay.
A moment for me. Because I remember the game, we were sitting right up high at Wembley, and I remember the game thinking, we're not playing well here.
No.
I don't know what's going to happen. And we just get a corner, and he just pokes it in, and I thought, we're not losing this game now. We're going up. And as a moment, because I think if we didn't go up that year, it looked like with Harris later on in League One, I don't know what would have become of us because we had a very good team then. 'Cause we didn't make much signings the season after, if I remember correctly. We went up with the same team.
I
So
think
for a
I think you're right.
moment,
Yeah, that's a good moment. I mean, we nearly did equalise, didn't they? With that bobble at the end of the game, I think it was
Charlie
Charlie
Austin, yeah,
was put through, and somehow I think that it hit a divot or something, the ball, and it just bobbled wide. But these are the moments that turn. I mean, I think it's a good choice actually, Charlie, because that was the intention of the question in a way. Because if you look at where Swindon are now, I think they are. I don't know where they're doing. They're in League Two,
I think they're League Two now.
and the contrast. I'm just thinking back to when we played Scunthorpe in the playoff final. It beat us in 2009. But
Yeah.
they're now looking. I think they're in non-league, aren't they? And I think they're struggling in non-league. So it's just interesting how these moments control great things because the tangents that they go off at. We may have been in the same boat. I don't know. So like Lady Luck was smiled as on us that day. That's a good choice. Paul Robinson's goal at Wembley. That was a great. I must admit it was an odd game because you're right. I didn't feel that we were playing brilliantly that day.
No.
But I suppose the 2017 one was equally a was a pretty tight game, and then obviously the late goal for Steve Morrison, who we've mentioned already. Looking through the current squad, Charlie, who would be your favourite? And you mustn't say Zian Fleming. You can
He's
say
nearly
him if you
there.
want. You can say
He's
him.
getting there.
He's getting there. Who'd you
My
pick out?
favourite, my favourite player at the moment, a bit of a controversial one with some people, but it's Billy Mitchell. I think
Yeah,
this
yeah.
season he's just come leaps and bounds to what he was last season. I mean, we in my block we called him backwards Billy for a period because all he seemed to do was get the ball back to Cooper, Hutch, or Murray Wallace, whoever it was. And this season, I feel like he's got more confident. He's turning. I mean, there was a ball at Preston that he's played to Danny Mack for one of our goals, and you're just like, this is what this kid can do.
Yeah.
And I can see him being in our central midfield for a long, long time. He just works hard. He's got everything, really, in my opinion.
I think it's really. I mean, I was saying to Neil in the when we did the recording after the Watford game, immediately after the game, how marked the improvement is in Billy. I wonder whether it's being around better players. He's around some real quality players now in Zian. All joking aside, and he is adding layers to his game that weren't maybe as apparent. He's younger, but there was a tendency to kind of square passing, kind of crab style passing. But now he's
Yeah,
looking the part defensively and offensively as well, so to speak. And I think he's a real prospect for us. And of course, he's Millwall through and through, Charlie, isn't he? So
mm,
I'll make you right. It's
yeah,
a good choice. Yeah, I think he's a really standout player, possibly contender for player of the season. Although I expect that Zian will be probably
I
nudging in
think
front
he'll
of him
get it.
with
Zian.
his 10 goals before Christmas or just after Christmas now. Number 10 on our little list, listeners, is your most hated or disliked. I think hate's a strong word. I'm going to have to
Yeah,
change that. Most disliked opponent. That can be a team or a player. Who would you pick out as your most disliked, mate?
I can't separate these two. It's Charlton and Palace for me.
It's hard to hate Charlton. I think you can hate Palace. I think
The problem is, it is hard to hate them, but we've played them so much recently, like when we was in League One in the Championship, and I just their fans' arrogance that they're always going to beat us, and I don't think they know how long they haven't beat us for. To be honest with you,
we haven't ever
I think they
beat
keep
Millwall
forgetting this.
10 or 11 times in history. I think it's the most one-sided local derby. I haven't got the figures to hand, but it's something really stupid. Like they've only ever beaten us. It may be 11 occasions in history since 1900 or something. So it's a very strange local derby, the Millwall Charlton one.
I know, but I'd have to say Charlton. I mean, I've never seen us win at the Valley whenever I've gone down there. I remember a game where I don't know if you remember, it was in League One, and Jordan Archer has got the ball. He's
hmm.
about to kick it, and he's thrown it somewhere, and someone's poked it in. And I think the referee felt so sorry for Archer that he gave a foul against him. All these moments stand out in my head, like We have got a bit lucky against them sometimes.
Oh yeah, no, there've been occasions where you think, I've seen a good few games against Charlton where you think, blimey, we dodged a bullet there, got out of jail, whatever way you want to put it. I think, I suppose the Charlton thing is they had their little run in the Premier League, didn't they? I think they actually started to believe,
Yeah.
Charlie, that they were the next. I don't know. Now they could look Arsenal in the eye, and they could hold court at the top table, and because I think they sacked Kirbishley for not getting them into Europe, and you think, what arrogance that is to think that you're entitled to
That's what I
European
mean.
football, Maybe it's that, I don't know. I find myself with Charlton particularly, because obviously they're in a plummet at the moment. There's just above relegation in League One. I both want them to get relegated, and I feel sorry for them at the same time. I think it's not pity is not a good football emotion, is it? Whereas I
No.
can't feel that for Crystal Palace, and they were always a team that I was around when I was young. But that's your dad's team, of course.
Personal reasons, yeah. Whenever we play them, it's always a texting conversation and everything. But I mean, I've not seen Palace beat us. I remember we beat them 3-0. Jason Puncheon
Yeah,
scored a hat trick,
that's right. Yeah.
and then my dad didn't talk to me for about a week. I think he ignored me, so I was just constantly sending Puncheon's name to him.
We lost in the FA Cup, didn't we? Was it last season or the season before? I can't
Yeah,
remember now. But obviously that's a Premier League outfit now, so they're able to bring players in that they wouldn't normally expect to have. But that record against Palace in recent times has been pretty good. For some reason, we've always managed to raise our game for these local derbies. I think if you're going to be shit, you might as well at least beat your neighbour, mightn't you? There's nothing else you can achieve. At least make sure you're in front of Charlton or Palace on the day, at least. Good choices, Charlton and Crystal Palace. I think I'd have to go with Crystal Palace out of the two, Charlie, personally. But each to their own. And the last question in our series is for you to name the players that you've seen since 2004, in this case, your best ever Millwall 11. So you said you had some notes, and I'm hoping that you've got a nice 11 for us to choose from. I'll try and write them down as you go through as well to keep track of them. So who would you have in
I hope
goal?
it's a good one.
Who's your choice of goalkeeper?
So my choice of goalkeeper is Bart.
Okay.
It was really close with him and Fordy, but I just think in recent times the saves Bart's made for us has easily gained us an extra 12, maybe 15 points a season.
Yeah.
And I think this season he's sort of come off his perch a little bit. I think a bit harshly, to be honest. But I mean, George Long's come in, not done much wrong. But I think for 3 years, Bart was probably our best player because he won Player of the Year. So
great
I just think if we
instinctive
had better
goalkeeper.
kicking on him, he would be with us.
Well, I had to laugh on Saturday. I can't remember if it was might have been Carl or it might have been Max. I think it was Carl doing the standard thing about praising George Long's distribution just as he put it straight into touch. I think it was like a kick out from the penalty area. It went straight out, missed the man he was aiming at on the wing. I suppose it was Danny, and it went into touch. So I think this distribution thing is a bit overhyped at times. As a shot stopper, an instinctive shot stopper, which is for me is what a goalkeeper's for. I can't think of many that would beat Bart. Ford had his quirks, but he was a great goalkeeper. But I think Bart has to beat him. He's certainly one of the greatest ones I've seen in my many years of following the line. So I endorse that. Second that emotion there, Charlie. Let's go across your back line. Let's have your full your right back or your left back as a case may be. Who's you got in your defence?
So my right back is Alan Dunn.
Dunny.
Just plainly because he saw off so many players when they came in. He would always end the season playing. And I remember, I think it was under Holloway, we were really struggling. I think Holloway put him centre-back for a little while. And he done...
I think you could be right. He tried
it was him and Beavers at centre-back for a while.
Yeah.
And he was amazing there as well. And I just thought that epitomises a Millwall player. He will just play wherever for the team.
It was always surprised with Dunny. You're right. He was the man they couldn't hang. No matter what happened, that he always got his place back. And it always intrigued me as to he seemed to induce a lot of desire to get rid of him from various managers, not just Jackett,
Yeah.
others too. And I don't know why, because he wasn't that bad a player. And even online, I used to go on Hoff, and some just didn't like Adam Dunn. I thought, I don't know why. He's actually, I'm not saying he's Roberto Carlos, but he wasn't bad. He was a good Millwall fullback, but he just seemed
No,
to
he was a good player.
inspired antagonism, Charlie, didn't he? It's strange, but anyway. Who have you got on your left side, mate? So it's Dunn on the right. Who are you going to have on the left?
So my left back was a bit hard for me because I couldn't really think of any, in my time, outstanding left
No,
backs apart from Tony Craig. I'll be honest with you.
I think Craig is an outstanding left back, but maybe not in the conventional sense of the word.
No, but for a
he's,
Millwall team,
he's an outstanding Millwall left back.
yeah. It's just like Murray Wallace. You look at Murray Wallace and you think he doesn't look like a left back, but
No.
he plays really well at left back. So I know he's had a bit of patchy form recently, but
Well, I think they
our
all
left backs
do.
don't seem to be the conventional ones.
And they wouldn't be playing down the den, Charlie, if they didn't have patchy form from time to time. That's part of the spiel, isn't it? But I had to laugh, and Craig used to inspire this. There was a moment on what day of the week it is, Boxing Day, whatever day of the week that was, listeners, where there was a 50-50 ball, and the Watford player, who must have cost X number of millions of pounds, pulled out. He didn't fancy going up against Murray Wallace. And that was exactly the intimidatory quality that made Tony Craig such a great player, because opposition players just did not want to tackle with him. And that's an essential part of the Millwall defence, in my opinion. You've got to be able to impose yourself on the opposition, and that's what we did so well at Vicarage Road. So I think that's a great choice. He's still playing, Craig. I think he passed 700 league appearances the other day. I think he's at Crawley, still playing.
Crawley, yeah. I can't believe it.
Must love the game. I think you've got to take your hat off to a player that has that length of career. And he was another one, actually, because he's about 3 or 4 spells with Mill. I think a lot of managers wanted to get rid of Tony Craig as well. And then he would keep coming back like a boomerang, So you got two fullbacks there that managers have consistently tried to get rid of but failed. So I think that's
Not very attacking.
Who are you going to put in the centre? You've got Craig and Dunn. Who are you going to have in the centre?
So my two centre halves are Paul Robinson and Sean Hutchinson.
Good choice. No Jake.
Now, a lot of people put Jake Cooper in there, but the problem with me is I think when Hutchinson plays, we're better.
Yeah,
and I think that's proven this season. When he's not in the team, we don't look the same defensively. I mean, Creswell's a young kid and he's doing all right, but I think Hutchinson just brings that leadership quality, and he's a presence, and
he's an intelligent
talker,
player,
which
Charlie.
is what we don't have.
Intelligent boy as well. I think he does bring something, and he's got a calming influence. I think that Jake gets a bit frazzled without Hutch alongside him. I think that's a great back line. I mean, look at that. Tony Craig, Paul Robinson, Sean Hutchinson, Alan Dunn, with Bart behind them. Not much will get past that back line, would it? Well, if they did get past,
not
they'd be.
assist, it doesn't matter.
If they did get past, they'd be hurt. Good midfield, and Paul Robinson is a stalwart. I mean, obviously he's coaching now back at the Den, which is great to see. He was a committed central defender, and certainly in great company. We've had some great central defenders over time, but he was in great company, and obviously the screw of that playoff goal at Wembley after finally banishing the Wembley hoodoo. Let's go to midfield, Charlie. Who are you going to put on your wings? Who are you going to have on the wings first of all? I'm presuming we're going 4-4-2, mate.
Yeah, 4-4-2.
You're not doing some 4-2-3-1 setup.
No, I'm sticking to basics. 4-4-2. Get your wingers crossing the balls in. So it might be a bit controversial, but my right winger is James Henry.
James Henry.
There was a period of time when we was in League One and we first come up to the Championship for the first 2 years, and I thought he was unplayable.
Yeah,
James Henry. He could cross a ball. I can't think of a player like him that can cross a ball. The only thing with him, he didn't have pace, but when I used to watch him, I used to think he's going to do something here. He might get an assist. He might win a foul, win a free kick, score a
Yeah.
free kick. I remember him scoring a few free kicks for us. Um, I would have put Jed in, but I just preferred James Henry for that League One Championship first period that we had him for.
I agree. I think he was a great player. I suppose consistency. I mean, that's a word that we keep bringing up across the Millwall ages, lack of. And I suppose that would be the criticism of James. But you're right. I think I remember reading that he'd been in England under whatever age group. I don't know, but he played for England level at a certain age group. And I could see why, because as you say there, I think he had the ingredients. He did have the ability to cross a ball. I suppose pace and consistency would be the two areas where, that's why he was in League One. But I saw him. I went to. Aaron invited me. I think it was an international break game. I went to AFC Wimbledon with Aaron. This would be about a year ago plus, and James Henry was playing with Oxford. It was AFC Wimbledon versus Oxford, and he was still. You could still see he had it, but obviously whatever pace he had has gone even further now. But you could still see he had that ability to place the ball. That was always his strongest suit, wasn't it? James Henry. Good choice, mate.
Definitely.
Good choice. This is always a tough one. Who are you going to have on the left side, mate?
Oh, it was a very tough one when I was going through the names.
Yeah.
But my one is Danny Schofield.
Schofield, good choice.
Yeah, just I know he was a right footer, but I remember that season we went up and he was immense, taking players on, getting balls into the box, working hard. And I know left midfield's a bit of a problem area for us historically. We've not had a lot of good ones in recent times, but Danny Schofield for me just stands out when I was thinking back.
That's a good choice. I mean, it is a difficult position to fill. We've never really had a standout left-footed player in many years. Actually, it's not an easy position to fill for some reason. But I mean, Danny was a 100% player for us, and I think that's a good choice. That's actually, I mean, that would take you back to the 2010 side, really, wouldn't it? James Henry, I think it was around that point, and Schofield. Who are you going to put in the central midfield in that case, then, Charlie?
So my two central midfielders are Jimmy Abdu and Sean Williams.
Well, it's got to be Sean Williams.
Two very, very different players.
Yeah, they're very different, but they would complement each other, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think Jimmy's longevity as well. He was with us for a good few years, and he reminded me a lot of Dunn. A lot of managers would take him out, play a flair player in there, and Jimmy would always end up coming back into the team.
Yeah,
and he just epitomises Millwall to me.
Well, he would make. I just love Jimmy. I mean, I think we all love Jimmy because we all know his limitations. But he would make an error or he'd misplace a pass in midfield. But it was that ability to run straight back and try and put it right. And often he would put it right because he'd make the tackle. He'd break the play up. He'd just kind of given the ball away. He'd break that play up.
Yeah.
And that never say die, run to your drop kind of attitude. It was so Millwall. And obviously he was playing until quite recently. He was playing with the Comoros Islands. I think they were in the African Cup finals tournament quite recently.
Wow.
They didn't do much, but at the age of 38, 39, whatever he is, it was great to see. And Sean Williams, we've touched on already. So that's an experienced, strong midfield you got there. It's Danny Schofield, Jimmy Abdu, Sean Williams, and a bit of flair from the man himself, James Henry, on the wing. Who are you going to put in front of them, Charlie? Who are you going to have up front, mate?
So the two up front, the period we was in League One and come up to the Championship, I just felt these two had a partnership that we just haven't replicated since in Lee Gregory and Steve Morrison.
Yeah, no,
I didn't get to see a lot of Neil Harris, to be honest with you, because I was at the tail end of his Millwall career. But I just remember that period in League One when we were going up and Morrison and Gregory were just on fire together. You knew one of them was going to score in the game before the game even kicked off.
Morrison was great because, I mean, when obviously you would have missed out on the Neil Harris era, but late period Neil Harris had two substitute pace. He was a very quick player when he was young. We had to substitute that for guile and nous and experience. And in a similar way, Morrison, when he first came to us from non-league, was quite advanced in his years. But as he went along, he became this kind of he developed this kind of pantomime villain, horrible bastard kind of persona, didn't he? No one ever said he didn't smile when he first appeared with us, and he did smile, but he became this kind of professional miserablist, which people seem to love. They love to spark off that kind of thing, and it was just wonderful. And a creator of chances for Lee Gregory, who was, I think, his high point of his career will be with Millwall. I know he came from Halifax, didn't he? And he's gone up to he was Sheffield Wednesday, I think,
now
at the moment. But that as with so many players, Charlie, Millwall is their stage, and I think that was always Lee Gregory's stage as well. It was his theatre, and it's interesting how some players have high points in their career at Millwall, and others just, as we've said already, just fade. But that's a great front two, Morrison and Gregory, classic. That's a good side. I like the look of that side. You happy with it?
Solid. Yep, solid side. I don't think we've conceded a lot of goals.
I think it'd be fairly...
a lot of 1-0s.
I think it might be Route 1. Bart in goal, backline, Tony Craig, listeners, Paul Robinson, Sean Hutchinson, Alan Dunn. That's an uncompromising backline. Every time I look at that, I think, that's an uncompromising defence. Then we've got Danny Schofield, Jimmy Abdu, Sean Williams, a bit of perceptive passing in midfield, and James Henry for the flair, and then up front, the man who never smiled, Steve Morrison, and the professional Northerner himself, Lee Gregory, who we loved at the Den. That is a wonderful 11 that you got there. Did you have any substitutes, or did you have any near misses? Any players that you toyed with?
Midfield, I had George Saville in for a little bit.
Sav's
for that first season back in the Championship. I also had, weirdly, Liam Trotter in it as well for a period of time.
You love a bizarre choice, you do, Charlie, don't you?
Yeah.
He was a good player.
I just remember he was a good player, but he was very lazy.
Very lazy.
Correctly. Nothing really. I had Aidan O'Brien left midfield because I was really struggling to think of someone.
Aidan should have gone further in the game, but I think he just didn't have the I don't know what the ingredients to do it. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Liam Trotter actually is a participant in one of the great YouTube videos. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It'll be a 2010 game which I was at. We were playing Southampton and we went 1-0 down in injury time. I don't know if you've seen this YouTube. It's shot from the away end.
Yeah, I think I was there for that.
It's a great video. Seek it out, listeners. Because we the Southampton fans go into ecstasy when they go 1 goal ahead. It's deep into injury time, and Liam Trotter equalises from kickoff straight down the other end, and it's just wonderful. The sad faces and the kind of the reaction of the Southampton fans make it an all-time classic YouTube video. Well worth checking out if you haven't seen it. Do I might even repost it tonight after our conversation, Charlie. Great 11, mate. I've really enjoyed talking to you, mate. It's a great little interview. Thanks for coming on the show, Charlie.
No, thanks for having me on. Enjoyed that.
Yeah. If you're interested, listeners, in telling me your Millwall story, we'll just share it with the globe via the internet. So discretion applies. Do get in touch with me. Give me a shout on you can Twitter. Is it hit me up? Is that what the kids say, Charlie? Hit me up on Twitter.
I think it is, yeah. I'm not that young
You
anymore.
think it is? At Achtung Millwall. Send me a message if you want to come and do it. I really enjoyed this. This is Charlie Kelly. Thank you for coming on the show, Charlie. And fingers crossed for Thursday night, mate. Let's hope we can get you an all-time promotion. That was great stuff. Charlie Kelly, Listed Lion. Thank you for coming on the show, mate. Until the next edition, dear listeners.
Thanks for having me.
Arrivederci Millwall. Thanks for coming on, Charlie.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Achtung, Millwall.